Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. Welcome to my regular monthly Everything in Bloom on the 8th. Actually on the 8th this time. It does vary sometimes, but yeah, coincidentally on the 8th. First of all, a big thank you. Yesterday's Sunday chat, I was querying why people find channels, how people find channels, and whether they stay or whether they go. And well, I'll let you into a secret. My comments this morning, because obviously the video takes place during day 1, I deal with the comments early in the day on day 2. And this morning it took me 2.5 hours to deal with my comments from yesterday, so thanks for that, I think. Very, very welcome to get that many comments on a single video. There's some nice thoughts there as well, so thanks a bunch, all those who commented. Many, I would say, came out of the woodwork. Regular viewers who don't necessarily comment, and there are a lot of those. That's blatantly obvious on any channel. You know, if you look at the number of views a video gets, which you can all see, and then look at the number of comments, most people don't comment. In fact, the vast majority don't. Maybe there's just nothing to say and they've enjoyed watching the video. That's fine. Yeah. Anyway, thanks a bunch for all those that did comment and generate a shed load of work for me first time this morning. I think that's the first time it's taken 4 coffees to get through my comments. Anyway, they were most welcome, so thanks for that. And thanks for the birthday wishes for Hannah, which when I get a chance I will pass on. Right, so Everything in Bloom on the 8th. I'm going to start differently this time, because normally we've got the cooler, shadier types, which I get down on my knees practically to film. I thought we'd get them out this time so that we've got better light and we can actually see what's going on. So this Masdevallia still has a bloom on it. It's lasting well, very well in fact. It's a pity the other spike didn't get knocked off, because I had a double spike. I had a spike that extended and produced a second bud, but I managed to knock the flipping thing off. But anyway, still in bloom. No idea. It's just a hybrid of some sort. But lovely, attractive colours and a reasonable size for a Masdevallia, not a huge one. And then my Masdevallia ignea still sitting there with its single bloom. But boy, is that lasting well. This is an experiment now, because I can see on my screen that colour doesn't look good against the black. What does it look like against? You can see the tone changes. The camera adjusts. So the camera is taking a lot of notice of what's behind the bloom. You can see it change. Anyway, Masdevallia ignea. One of the best colours on Masdevallias. Now I don't know how close I'm going to be able to get to this, but one of the Restrepias is out at the moment. This is Antennifera, and it's been blooming incredibly well recently, having not bloomed for a long time, and then it just suddenly went mad. You can see all the spent blooms here, and more still to come. But I'll see how close I can get to one. The patterning is gorgeous. Unfortunately, this camera plays with it, because it is very, very fine stripes. Basically, it's a background colour of a gold yellow with deep red stripes, which makes the whole thing look stripy. But the stripes are actually red on a background colour. That's how they're formed. And they're so fine and so close together, the camera has trouble actually sorting it out and showing it. Try a sideways on one. Anyway, I'm not sure how sharp that would have been, but yeah, that's my only Restrepia that's actually got some blooms on at the moment. And they bloom on and off. There isn't really a season for them. And then the other one out of that section that we've got is this giant Dracula. Well, it's actually a Dracuvalia, so it's a Dracula crossed with a Masdevallia. And this is Aletta Page. Very large flower, doesn't fully open, So you have to look into it to sort of see what you've got, really. But a gorgeous colour, lovely deep orange with yellow tones. And there's even a sort of slight purple tone in these stripes down through the centre of the shape. Yeah, so very attractive. First time bloomer for me, that one. So that's the cooler, shadier ones. I'll shut down and get those back, and then we'll get some more stuff out to look at. Right, before I carry on, we've got some losses. Those that were and have ceased to be. The Laelia purpurata has gone over, and that did not last that long, really, considering I waited 3 years for it to bloom. Also, the apple blossom has gone. So we have a few that are now missing. One of the Tolumnias had its last spike taken off a while back. I don't know whether that would have been in the last video or not. So a few things that have gone, and now I'm just going to go round like I normally do. So this is a new acquisition, and it's got rhodostictum in it and something else. It's a Dendrobium latoria cross. Eximium crossed with rhodostictum. Now that first name will not stick. I have to look it up every flipping time. Now quite a few of the spikes have gone over on this. We've still got this one up here, although I'm not sure how much longer this one's going to last. And these were the last two that opened, so these will still be with us for some considerable time. Lovely shaped blooms, lovely deep purple veining in that weird shaped lip. So I'm pleased with this, and the blooms last incredibly well, and it's growing as well. We've got quite a few new growths coming out sort of down below, which is good. It's my only good looking Latoria that I've got left now, and it's a new acquisition. So I can't say that I've grown that, because I haven't. But I will be growing the new growths that are growing now. So that's good. We've had an awful lot of looking at this lately, with photographs and things. Dendrobium friedrichianum. I forget how long the blooms last on this, but if it blooms on a regular date, because a lot of my dendrobiums come out in bloom within a week of the same date each year. Well, this was in full bloom at Malvern last year, which was around the 16th of June, and this has been out probably a week or more now. So, well, it's difficult to say. It'll last as long as it lasts at the end of the day. That's all you can say, isn't it? But it's looking good. You know, I mean, I can't ask for any more from a dendrobium that performs like that. Pretty good stuff. And once that one's finished blooming, we will be taking quite a few of the older canes off to spread the plant out a bit and give it more room to move. And tucked round behind it is my Odontoglossum, which is also going to have its old cane stripped off. Now this one's still got some blooms looking good and some that are going over. That's how you need to view Odontoglossum against the light. That way you see it's almost translucent, but I love those blooms. They really are attractive. It's on its last legs now, I would say. There's still an awful lot of blooms. You know, there's some right up through there. There's some that have come out up there. Those canes aren't supposed to bloom till next year. Still. So it's blooming up in the sky up there. So there's still some buds to open. So it's still going to be in bloom for some time. But its mass blooming is now over. You know, if you don't remove the old blooms on Odontoglossum, it can make the whole thing look really tatty, which I haven't done recently. And then up behind that, still looking reasonable, is the Epidendrum. Comet Valley, something or other. Comet Valley, Orange Star, I think. You'll be getting pop-ups if I do get these wrong or forget them. And the plant looks awful, but it's still blooming nicely. And it's a gorgeous splash of orange and yellow. Very nice, very attractive blooms. I just hope that one day the plant grows well again, because it's certainly, you know, it had a bad time, nearly lost it, nearly dumped it on the grounds it looks so bad. And then I saw the buds. I thought, well, if you're going to bloom, you can stay. What happens after it blooms, we'll have to wait and see. But bloom's looking good on that. Now we're getting a bit squashed up here. Ooh. Right, we've got our come on brain, Lelonia, I think it is. Chantilly lace, anyway, whatever it is. Chantilly lace is the name. And these blooms are white with the delicate pink spot and spotting, yeah? But then they turn to cream. Quite honestly, once they go to cream, they don't look as good. They're not as attractive as the colour changes. So these are best when they first open. Some orchid blooms go the other way. They open one colour, then they change, and the colour they change to is the better. But not that one. And then coming around here, we've got our... there's a lot of people, this is their favourite, and quite honestly, it's one of mine as well. I think this has actually got a proper name, but it is Cattleya Little Lemon Drops. You'll hear that again in a minute. And it's crossed with a Cattletonia Why Not? And the colour combination on that is beautiful. It would be marvellous if the blooms were twice as big, or perhaps had twice as many. But nonetheless, it's looking nice. And that's a second blooming. We had a set of blooms not that long ago. Again, this one's already pushing up the new growths, so grows well for me, that one. It's not too bad. The roots always look tatty on it, but it replaces them virtually every year. You know, you could cut a lot of the old ones off, but then they do shoot out, so you need to go careful cutting old Cattleya roots off. You could be cutting off some dormant root eyes that are about to sprout, like that one has. Right, I don't know whether we're going to be able to film this very well. I think it is. No, so I thought I saw aphids then. Grr. We don't get aphids in here. Oh, before we whiz past it, tucked under that leaf, I don't think we can count that anymore. I was going to say the hibiki has still got its single bloom on there. No, we'll count that as gone. It's been there for months since I got the plant. Right, up here is my only Tolumnia species. And this is Tolumnia europhylla. Blooms are quite small, and although they have the typical Tolumnia shape, they're not in the same proportions as a lot of the hybrids. The top section of the plant is minute, with a very large, if that is a lip, the bottom section anyway. And that's not a normal shape for a Tolumnia. Reminds me a lot of things like sweet sugar, you know, the dancing lady types. But at the end of the day, we keep calling these Tolumnias. They were originally oncidiums. So, you know, they've now got their own classification. And you can see, written all over that is oncidium, isn't it? Until you get to look at the plant. And then, with these big, thick, fleshy leaves, it's nothing like an oncidium. So that's my only species. Then we come down to all the hybrids, which I usually get in a muddle over, which one's a which. They also tangle up together. So we're hoping for labels, and we do have one here. So this one is, right, this one is Sunset Pink, and it is nearly finished now. It has nearly gone. These are on their last legs, and these are the last of the branches. So these two spikes will come off of this soon, and then the plant can go back up in the high section where they live normally, because it'll have done its thing. And then this one here, I believe, is a first-time bloomer. Yep. And this is Jarak Rainbow Soft Pink. This was one of the Christmas ones that, well, they were atrocious really. For a set of 5 plants, I've only got 2. The others just went. One flowered before it went, but I think that was its demise. It just didn't have enough in it. Shouldn't have let it bloom, really. But anyway, lovely colours again. Real colour changer. That opens red. Not pink, red. And then it turns through the shades of pink. The veining appears later, because it's not there at first. So a real colour changer, that one. And then this one here, which the camera will lighten. It will fade that. It's quite a deep colour, but as it ages, it does lighten slightly naturally, and that is something or other black magic, probably Gerac. Yeah, Gerac flyer. There's a French nursery that does an awful lot of Tolumnia hybrids, and they nearly all start with Gerac flyer or Gerac rainbow. It's the other one. But this is a lovely deep colour, and with the little tinges of yellow, makes it a very attractive bloom. So lovely Tolumnia, that one. And then we can say bye-bye to this one now as well, which is Tolumnia peach, I believe. Yep. With its 3 spikes that lasted absolutely ages. I think that first opened in December. We're now in June. But these are the last of the blooms now, and they are on their way out. So that one will be gone. And then we can get on and grow the plant. Although it's already doing that. It's already got its new growths pushing out. Nice strong ones, several. So again, you know, that can have its spike taken off and go back up in the bright light where they live. Right, there's nothing else lurking around here apart from the big Brassia that's lurking everywhere, quite honestly. I had to bring this down, it was touching the roof. And you can't get the impression of this plant. It's too big. I'd have to take this outside or something to film the whole plant. It's not possible, it's so big. It's a large strappy plant for a start. Some lovely ferns in there. I think when it's finished blooming I will be splitting it, because in one section of that plant are 6 new growths, and they're all on the edge of the pot. They're going to be out of the pot with aerial roots if I don't do something with those soon. So, but we haven't really had a nice close look at these. The camera washes these. I remember when I first got it last year, the camera will not show the colour because it tends to fade it to white, and it's not. It's a lovely pale green, and the spotting on the sepals is a deep rich maroon red. The spotting on the sepals and the lip is deep green. So the camera has a job to render these colours correctly. But I have to remember when I got this last year, it was absolutely smothered in green fly, and they got on other things while they were at it as well. They took down the spike on my Catatanti, naughty little things. The other Brassia that came from Burnham's at the same time also had aphids on it, green fly, whatever you want to call them. I got rid of them, but you know, they came back several times for a while. But I mean, Sarah specifically said, you know, when she was wrapping them up, she said these have got aphids on them. You'll have to deal with them when you get back, or they'll get over all the rest of your blooms. And I did, and they did. So that's I'll put a pop-up, I've forgotten. I know the clonal name is Sea Breeze, but 5 good spikes on that. They're all open now. This is the last one, which is just starting. Still got some buds. Still some buds on the end of this one, a couple. This one's fully open. A few buds on the end of this one over here. The spikes are everywhere. And even a few buds on the end of that one that's having to go under the shelf. It was the only place I needed to get the plant far enough back into that corner so that I can walk. I need to be able to move around here to water things and get to plants and things. So that was the safest place where I'm not going to damage those spikes. So that's that one. And then coming up round here, there's nothing until we get to here. And we've got the Odontoglossum naeviem, and yeah, I like this one more for the shape than the specific colours, because basically it's white with red spots, so it's nothing spectacular. There's a nice touch of pale yellow in the middle, but it's the shape. Those curly shapes are just gorgeous. So 2 spikes on that. There's another one up there heading off in the other direction, which I had to stake that because an arching spike in 2 opposite directions means the plant just takes up far too much space. So I've staked one upright and let one arch over. That's how I like to see that's what a plant likes to do. I like to let it. So that's that one. Right, not a huge amount more, so we're nearly there. We've got Mr. Hairy, Dendrobium senile. Now that has virtually lost the original blooms that it had. This was an odd bloom, the only one on a cane that had actually bloomed the year before, which is unusual. This is good because these over here are small compared with this one. And I needed them both to be able to show the difference in size. Yeah, so it seems that on this one, the spikes with many blooms on tend to be a bit smaller. But look at the difference in the colour. It changes from that gorgeous green in the centre, which is quite green at first, and stays for some considerable time. But then it changes, and the green turns a deep gold and disappears. And then shortly after that, the bloom falls off. Bloom does that. So once that colour changes to that deep gold like that, that's it. They're off soon. Now, this bloom will be with us a while because it did open quite a bit later than the others. So as far as a plant being in bloom, this one will be with us a while. And then that just needs to get on with its new growths, which it is doing. There are quite a few on here. I mean, just in this area, you've got 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Another one here, 4. There's quite a few new growths on this one. And I just saw a bug move. What are you? I don't think it is a bug. I think I just knocked a speck of something. Are they? No, they're just specks, I think. Got bugs on this. Yeah, so quite a few new growths pushing out on this one. Another little one right down the bottom there, heading downwards. There's a couple in the middle there. So it's growing nicely. I'm pleased with the way it grows. Not quite sure what to do with the moss when it gets like this. It sort of turns into like a solid lump. But it's almost as though the moss has started to grow a different type of moss on top of the original sphagnum. But I suppose it's not doing any harm, and the roots seem to plunge themselves down in it. There are a few roots heading out into space in a few places. So that's Mr. Hairy. Won't be with us too much longer, but we've still got a bit to go. And then we've got Dendrobium conico. I class this as this is a Victoria Regina cross. And I class this as a star performer because it's almost constantly in bloom throughout the year. It just keeps finding new places to bloom and pushing out these lovely clusters. It's a lovely colour. Oh, hang on, we don't want a fan in the background, do we? It's a gorgeous colour. These are the latest ones to open, and these are the first blooms I've seen on here on a fully leaved cane. Well, nearly fully leaved. They are starting to drop. So this is the first bloom cluster on a cane that I've grown. All of these blooms down here are on the deciduous canes that came with the plant. So some of them had leaves, and the leaves have since fallen, but they're not my canes. The leaved canes up here are mine, and several new growths coming out now as well. So that's the first time it's bloomed on any of my canes. So that's that. So I'm scanning quickly now just to make sure I haven't forgotten anything. I don't think I have. I usually forget one. I don't think I have this time. I probably have, but I'm not admitting to it. And then I'll finish on this one because this has just opened. And I did say we would repeat the name again. This is Cattleya Little Lemon Drops again. But this is crossed with Encyclia vitellina. And this one changes colour because it opens yellow, but eventually it turns orange. And the blooms last a lovely long time. And this is an unusual growth because the growth itself didn't open its leaves properly. It is a bifoliate, but you can see that the leaves don't peel back. They have this sticking up habit, yeah, where they don't fully arch over. And that's how this one is. But this one didn't really open its leaves very well at all. It's kept them quite close together. To such an extent I thought the spike might even get trapped, but it didn't. So it's pushing on, and that's by far the most number of buds I've had on a spike. It only produces one growth at a time, so it's a single direction Cattleya, like a lot of them are. But it blooms reliably. You know, once these blooms are finished, there'll be another new growth, some new roots, and a spike, and it just repeats over and over again. So it's a good performer, this, and those blooms will last a very, very long time. And quite honestly, their size, because they're not very large, can I put this down? Will it stay there and not fall over and break the spike? They're not large blooms, yes, they're not large at all, but they're going to last for a lovely long time. So that's been moved. It doesn't normally live there, but I want to be able to see that when it's in bloom. So I do move plants to not necessarily suitable places, but places where I can see the blooms. Now sometimes that might be a bit of a problem, because if the blooms last a really, really long time and the plant's not in a suitable place, it might not do it a lot of good. So things that didn't quite make it, which I don't normally show. Consider what you're looking at here. It's a Brassia, yes? And this is the bud. The bud is made up of 3 sepals. They are that long. Yeah? And one of them's going to stick up in the air and the other 2 are going to dangle down. So given that that is 4 inches, so the total size of the bloom will be but you didn't make it, did you? You didn't quite. Look, this one's just starting, but it didn't quite make everything in bloom. Nonetheless, we will see it soon, won't we? So yeah, so that's it for this time. Everything in bloom on the 8th. Hope you've enjoyed it. Bit of a fiddly one for me, but it's only once a month. It's fiddly because of the pop-ups. Oh, and I wanted to say something as well. The where the name pops up, that's a special little format that the software provides for me, and it makes reading the name very, very clear, providing the name's not very long, because it's a fixed length and it's about 1/3 to half of the width of the screen. Then it stops. So if the words are longer than that bit, they hang out the end, which makes them no different to the titles I used to use, which some people said were not very readable. Also, it won't allow for double lines. Yeah, so it's very limiting. So sometimes I have to use just a normal text box, which I don't know, it's difficult. We've tried all the different colours. I don't want to make the text too big and completely cover the screen. And this little prepared title box that I found seems to show the text best, providing the name of the Cattleya is not too long. But when you get, you know, something like we've just seen, Cattleya Little Lemon Drops, that on its own would hang out the end of the box. But then you've got the other plant. I've also got Encyclia Vitellina to get in the title as well. If I put it on a separate line, it's outside the box. So we're back to not being able to read it so well. So there are limitations with the software, but we do what we can. And certainly in this particular case, I think I've said all the names as well, so you've heard them as well as hopefully being able to read them. And tomorrow, I'll warn you in advance so that those who are not interested in that sort of thing don't need to rush over to see what's going on. I've got 2 videos to go back to back. They will both get posted together. One of them is calibrating my new pH meter. Now there'll be a lot of people who think, oh, I'm not flipping watching that. Well, I'm quite happy that you don't, but it may be useful for some because it's the sort that you calibrate with a screwdriver. It's not an automatic unit, so you've got to do it manually. So if you're interested in how those work, and that is immediately followed on by a second video showing me setting up some benchmark values to write down in my notebook, whereby I've got a precise level of feed, and I read the pH and write it down, and then change the level of feed, read the pH and write it down. Those are my benchmark figures. They're important because they're predictable, because it starts off with the RO water, which doesn't really change. You put a specific amount of my MSU feed in there, so the pH at that point should be predictable. So I've written them down, and then when I'm going about my business using the meter for what it's supposed to be used for, if I suddenly start getting readings that are a bit off, then I would suggest my pH meter might need recalibrating, so it will tell me when it needs doing. But you can't expect the earth for 15 quid, can you? It's not a scientific instrument, it's a rough guide. That's about as best as it gets. But those will be tomorrow's videos, because I want to get them out of my system, because they're cluttering up the place. But I don't want to throw them away, if you see what I mean. So I will post those tomorrow. And then we get back to the orchids or something or other. That'll be Wednesday, won't it? Monday today, yes. So there we go. And thanks for dropping by, thanks for watching, and yet again, thanks for the birthday wishes for Hannah. And thanks for all your comments on yesterday's Sunday chat, even if it did take me half the morning to deal with them. But that's part of what I see as the job. If I'm going to run this channel, then I like to do it the way I see is proper. And proper is dealing with the comments, you know, not just ignoring them. So hopefully I've done that, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for dropping by. I thought I'd add this on the end. This always gets forgotten because it lives outside. It's my only hardy terrestrial, a native species. This has got a story behind it actually, because it hitched a ride. The house I used to live at had several ponds, including a very large wildlife pond down the bottom of the garden that was allowed to grow wild. And at a water garden centre I was visiting, they had, well, it just said marsh orchid on the tags, and they had a few of them, and I thought that might be nice. I wonder if they would grow round my pond, you know, in amongst the other plants. So I bought it and planted it in with the other marginals, and when it finished blooming, quite honestly I forgot about it. And the next year it bloomed again, and I thought, oh good, so it's managed to sort of hang on. And then the following year there weren't any blooms. And the following year I had about 15 plants dotted all round the pond. So it had seeded itself, and the seeds had obviously blown or drifted across the surface of the water to the edges and got a hold. But when I moved down here, one plant managed to hitch a ride in one of the garden tubs. So it came down with me, hitched a ride, literally. So I took it out of where it was and potted it up separately, and it spread. You know, it turned from one spike, and I've now got 5. So I've got 5 blooming size plants in here that continue to bloom. They don't only bloom once, they come up each year. I think I had 4 last year, I may have had 5, I can't remember. But what I have got are seedlings. So it has managed to seed itself in the pot. There's only a couple, but hopefully they will grow on, you know, and become blooming sized plants in their own right. We don't want the ants in here, but I suppose we're going to have some. Yeah, I mean, this one's coming on to a reasonable size now, so we've got seedlings. Now this is a variety of the southern marsh orchid. I'll do a pop-up for the name because there's no way I'm going to try and pronounce them, flipping things. But it's called the leopard marsh orchid, its common name, based on the markings on the leaves, which look like the sort of spotty, well, more like rings that you get on a leopard. So that's where it gets its sort of name from. Quite a few ants on here. Needs to go back outside with those. But it lives outside permanently. Now I don't know how close I'm going to be able to get with this to be able to show you the blooms. Patterning on the lip is gorgeous. I'll just go in. It'll either be in focus or it won't. Probably not. But while I've got it in here, I must get a photo because you know, in my orchid records this one hasn't got a picture, so there's no pop-up. So I keep forgetting to do it. Oh, this is covered in ants. I have to get it back outside, otherwise I'll have them in here. I can do without that, that's for sure. Anyway, I just thought I'd pop that on the end. This is a, you know, perfectly hardy orchid, lives outside all year round. Gets rained on, gets frozen solid, covered in snow, whatever the weather throws at it, seems to do okay. And it's could do with a repot soon, I would think, and possibly splitting up a bit. Perhaps produce 2 potfuls and give one on to somebody else. But I don't plan on getting any more. It's not of a huge interest to me on the grounds the blooms are tiny and it lives outside. And quite honestly, they don't last long. The first blooms to open down the base of the spike are usually going over, like these are, before the top of the buds has even opened. So they don't last long at all. You're lucky to get 2 weeks, you know, and then they're starting to look brown and tatty. But the foliage is attractive, you know, that looks quite nice. So anyway, just thought I'd tag that on the end.